Welcome to today's episode of What to Say and How to Say It, the podcast to help you fix your marriage. I'm Shy Lewis. I'm here with Nina Rosner. Our mission is to help you, Christian married man or woman, navigate conflict and build connection so you can have a thriving marriage. So today our topic is becoming emotionally bulletproof and 6 things that actually happen to your nervous system when you start to heal. All right, so I'm excited about today's topic because I've actually walked through some of this myself, and so a lot of this resonates with me personally. But I just want to be clear that when you become bulletproof emotionally, it doesn't really mean you become cold or detached. It just means you're able to really regulate in any situation, whether it's intense, whether it's calm. You can go into any room, any conversation, and just really be in tune with your body and your emotions. And when you start to do the work, you really notice the change from when you were triggered and unregulated to when you become bulletproof, and those same triggers no longer take over. So I'm excited about today's topic. Ready to get into it with Nina. But before we get there, I want to direct you to our website, greaterimpactwives.org. This is where you can provide.
Jazz will fix it.
He's so excited about this. All right. Before we get started, I want to direct you to our website, greaterimpactwives.org. This is where you can find a free PDF called 5 Tools for How to Stop Walking on Eggshells. We also have a free PDF for you to download. If you are interested in speaking with someone, reach out and we'll get somebody in touch with you. All right, Nina, so excited about the topic. What are your thoughts around becoming bulletproof?
So this is my favorite thing ever because not only do we have emotional control and management in that moment, we can go to an even deeper level because we're able to act on that scripture, overlook an insult. And one of the things, if you're married to an avoidant person, or if you're married to a fearful person, with their anxious attachment or avoidant attachment, what you'll see with this is a reaction emotionally when you get too close to the thing they're scared about, right? And then
Mhm.
they'll react. And then, so if you're bulletproof yourself, that in that reaction moment, you can say, "Hey, what's going on with you?
Mhm.
What's like, is there something in your chest? Like, is there weight there? Is your neck tense? Like, what's happening for you right now?" And then you can dig a little deeper. Like, what are you feeling at this moment?
Mhm.
Because you make the assumption it's not like this person because you see them through the eyes of Christ instead of through your own wounding. And you can say, you can think the best of them. And you can say, what's going on for you right now? And dig into that and connect with people in a space where they are trying to run for the hills or blow up the connection opportunity because they're scared. So in 80% of relationships have this push, pull, pursue, withdraw dynamic. And most people don't know how to handle that. And so this particular set of skills and the awarenesses we're going to talk about today are really, really important if you want a successful relationship with literally everybody in your world. You can do this. God can do this through you, and He wants to heal you. So I'm excited too.
Yeah, it's a cool topic. And I know we've touched on it many times, right, throughout, the podcast. And a lot of what we talk about is from an emotional state, from a spiritual state, even, and what happens in that healing. Today, our focus is going to be a little bit more on the physical side of things, where you can really see what's happening in your body. And I'm just fascinated by that because I've actually felt, and this might sound kind of crazy, but I've felt sensations
Mhm.
when my brain changes, when you rewire your brain, through the steps that we talk about and through the word and all the things, there actually is something physical that takes place. And so let's start with discussing why we get triggered what's happening in our brains. You talk about the amygdala hijacking and what takes place when our emotions override logic. Can you
Mhm.
explain that phenomena?
Yeah, so it's a coping mechanism that we develop as children to create safety for ourselves. It's not, and people misinterpret this all the time as, well, they said this mean thing to me and they hate me and blah, blah. It's like, no, that defensive response is a coping mechanism to protect that person from vulnerability or from being hurt again or whatever it is. But it gets triggered and it's fight, flight, or freeze. So you've got this, I'm going to do this thing that has worked for me in the past. And that's all it is. It's not about you, but it is about what's happened in the past in your history. So the current moment is there because all of that stuff from your history never got sorted. And pain that is unsorted is still there. And it
Mhm.
comes out in relationships, usually with the person you feel the most safe with, because you're trying to fix something that's broken from your history. And the sad thing is, most people don't know what to do with that. And they retort back, they fight back. And that's definitely not helpful.
It's not helpful. And one thing that I want to point out is that the brain doesn't know the difference when it's under threat, like whether it's a physical threat or just a rude comment or an email or a fight you're in with your spouse. Your brain processes it the exact same way. And I think that that's also pretty fascinating.
Yeah, because I mean, if you've ever been, I've been in a situation where I was physically assaulted by a boyfriend in college. It's terrifying. You know, you get hands around your throat, physical stuff happening to you that's not okay. And it's traumatizing. It's terrifying. Well, if you don't process all of that, and I didn't, I didn't know anything, I was 20 years old or something. That shows up later in other relationships because it's unprocessed. And your body can take the comment that your spouse makes that feels the same threatening wise. And your
Mhm.
body has this stored memory that nobody did anything with. And here we go. And it comes out that way. And it's not good.
Good. And when you were speaking up earlier about when we become available once we have processed this,
Mhm.
I think that's key because until you do the work, until you process it, you won't be available to
Right.
interact in a healthy way. Like you can't even be there to say, what are you going through? How are you feeling? Why are you responding in this way? Because you haven't processed your own stuff. And I think, yeah, that's so key.
So, we spent these stupid devices have become coping mechanisms also. So we check out and we get on our phone and we'll just scroll and get numb instead of dealing with what just happened. And it's creating more separation. So when you notice, and that's the go-to now these days, I'm gonna get on my phone, I'm gonna get on news or social media, start scrolling instead of being present in the relationship and dealing with your own emotions, dealing with, the connection steps, processing those things as they happen, even just sitting with your emotion and having a talk with God about why am I feeling this way. To not do that means you're going to have more and more and more problems because checking out doesn't solve it. It's still in there and you're just adding to the pile. And that's going to come out in your body. It's going to come out in your health and your immune system. It's going to come out in your relationships. So we're big advocates for deal with your stuff.
Deal with your stuff, do the work.
Yep.
It's just good for everybody. All right, let's move into what it means to have a mindset shift. When you're becoming bulletproof, there is, like we're saying, work to be done. So I just want to really quickly review that when you are emotional, it's important to recognize that your feelings are not in the driver's seat. They're just data that, you're collecting and you should be able to observe them. If you're doing the work, you should be able to observe your feelings and not necessarily allow them to rule over you. So Any thoughts around that?
Well, I think that's a biblical thing. Yeah, because we're to be ruled by the Lord of the universe. Christ should rule our heart instead of our ill-informed emotions that are often there because of lies that we believe. So I agree.
You have to own your state of mind. We like to say often, or I hear kids say this as well, so and so made me feel, which is not really true, right? We
No, not
are in charge of our feelings. Okay, let's talk about some tools that you can use. We are big fans of taking breaths, pausing, you know, thinking about what you're going to say before you say it, giving your brain time to engage. Um, in coaching, I know that we also have a practice of imagining yourself in the situation and rehearsing
yeah.
different outcomes. Where could this go? Um, Maybe speak to that a little bit around what that does in terms of rewiring your brain.
Yeah, so we don't have the synaptic pattern in place that we want to emulate when we think of the event that went wrong and our spouse said this thing and we said this thing and we're arguing. So what we want to do is we want to ask God, who am I really in this moment? Like if I'd have been listening to you, who would I have shown up as?
Mhm.
I would have been curious. I wouldn't have been offended. I wouldn't have been hurt. I would have been totally whole and healed, right? And so then I could ask a question. And so we have people vividly imagine that that's who they are and have a do-over with that moment because it lays down synaptic patterns in their brain that don't currently exist. And if your brain's going to do something, usually ruminate on what you did wrong, and think of the terrible way it went and just play it over and over and over again, which you are then creating a pathway that's going to be your go-to. And if you don't want to behave like that, stop it. Stop that. Like create something new, like be transformed. Ask the Father, who am I here? How do you want me to show up? How could I have? What are some verses that show me my identity? Oh, quick to listen, slow to speak, and even slower to become angry. Okay, what does that look like? And then you can see that in your head. You can see yourself asking questions and being patient and just doing everything differently. And then you get to a different outcome, usually as a result of that. And it takes practice, it takes time. You're not going to do it right the first time for sure. But if you don't start vividly imagining these things, like you're not going to actually do it. And the brain has so much power. It has a power to actually create muscle through vividly imagining exercise, whether you do it or not. So
Mm.
you can build muscle through imagining exercise. So you can actually train your brain, and the scripture tells us to train your mind for action. It's like, yeah, let's think about how we can be in this space differently than how we were. And instead of letting our brain do things that are useless and harmful to us in our relationships, let's do something good with that. It's a tool.
Mhm.
Let's use it.
Yeah, it's definitely a tool. I know one of the things that we take our students or our coaches or I guess that's the only word that comes to mind, coaches. Um, and also at the conference, we discuss this a lot, which we're not doing this year, and I'm really sad about it, but next year.
Yep.
Um, the concept of conscious competence, that is the result of what you're talking about, right? When you're doing the thing over and over and over again, so much to where it becomes like unconscious, or maybe it's unconscious competence that I'm thinking about. There's like four different ones.
Yeah, so you move from a place of I don't know what I don't know. That's unconscious incompetency.
Right.
I'm bad at this and I don't even know that. To, oh, I'm aware I'm terrible at it. To, I'm aware and I can be good at it if I'm thinking about it while I'm doing it, which is, the common experience is driving a car. You remember the first time you did that, you thought about all the stuff, and all at the same time, you're thinking about everything you have to do. then you get to a place where you're unconsciously competent. You don't have to think about everything to that great detail. Like the last time you drove somewhere, you probably didn't have to think about turning your blinker on. You just did. It
Mm-hmm.
just occurred. But between the space of, like, we spend a lot of time in conscious competency. Like, I'm good at it if I remember. Like, okay, cool. Good enough. Just keep doing that as long as you need to, because you're just going to naturally evolve into doing it without thinking at some point. But if you don't start getting intentional about that, you're going to get just reaction, which you've already been doing. It's not working for you. So stop that. Let's choose to be different in these spaces and show up differently, even though it's work. And it is a ton of work at first. It really is. It feels like, oh my gosh, this is so hard. Yeah, keep going. It gets much easier and it happens pretty quickly because brain cells are pretty, like, it takes about a month to really lay down some solid track, but you can do it. And then it becomes exponentially easier after that.
Yeah, love that. All right, let's get into what is actually happening to your nervous system once you're in the practice of rewiring your brain. So we know that when the body goes through trauma, often you're thrown into what feels like survival mode, the fight, flight, freeze, and fawn for some people. That's before the work happens. So you are a hot mess. You're not probably in the best state to interact until you actually put in the work there. So your body's going through what probably is like shock, right? Parasympathetic nervous system is what I've read that is mostly impacted when you go through trauma.
Yeah, you get lit up emotionally and your respiration is shallower. You're getting less oxygen to your brain. You lose access to executive function. Your heart rate is beating higher. It's like, we're running now. Even
Mm.
if you're not running, you're elevated big time. Everything's stimulated in your nervous system.
Yeah, I can't imagine trying to hold a healthy conversation when you look at what's happening in your body.
You can't.
You can't. Yeah.
It's impossible. Nobody does that. That's why our first boundary is have zero conversations when you're emotional or when your partner is, because nothing good ever comes from that ever.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, the amygdala, which you kind of spoke to earlier. Your brain is just mush if you're, in shock. It says here that your brain no longer reacts as if once you heal, your brain no longer reacts as if every conflict or reminder is an emergency. So when you're in trauma, everything's an emergency, and your amygdala is just like your alarm system just kind of just going off.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then your prefrontal cortex, once you do the healing work, this is what actually becomes more active. This is the part of your brain that is responsible for decision making, empathy, and impulse control, which are all essential when you're in the middle of a conflict.
Yeah, well, and common sense right there in the prefrontal cortex too. So you can have wisdom, executive function, like the things that are smart to do suddenly become available to you because you're not triggered. So your biology is out of your own way. It's a really cool concept.
It's so refreshing to know that there's something actually physical happening to you that you only have so much control over. It explains why you can't do the thing you want to do.
Yeah.
You know better, because I mean, this has happened to me a million times where it's like, I know what to do, but I can't reach that part of my brain. I can't access it because
Hmm.
my emotions and amygdala and all the things are overriding that.
Yeah. Well, and I don't often recommend separation. I've been through separation. It's a horrible experience, but sometimes you have to get out of the environment so that your nervous system can actually calm down and it not be overstimulated. People are having PTSD responses. Somebody will drop a book or something, you jump 3 feet in the air. Well, that's because your nervous system is hyperstimulated like all the time. Your baseline is so high. So you've got to do something about that. Calm down, get regulated, get consistent, get the healing. And then you
Mhm.
start increasing, prolonged exposure therapy, we'll say. You start exposing yourself to the thing that caused, or that you perceived cause that triggers you. And guess what? If you've done the healing work, those things aren't there anymore. And initially they will be, but you'll be consciously competent through them. You'll be choosing to breathe,
Mhm.
choosing to talk to the Lord, choosing to be patient, do the right thing, even though it's not what you want to do, but you'll do the right thing because you'll be calm enough to know what the right thing is. The Holy
Mhm.
Spirit will rule you in those moments. It's a better place. And then you get to a place where you don't even have to think about it because you're healed and it's like cost you nothing. You're over it, unoffended, bulletproof.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right. One note says here that your nervous system flexibility is also a benefit that happens. So you become, I guess, more agile. Like you can adapt more easily. It says this is called the high vagal tone, which is a marker of resilience and emotional stability. So you have moments where you're in a stressful situation, but you're able to return back to your baseline more easily versus before. So yeah.
One of the reasons I do horse riding lessons with crazy people, they're not crazy actually. We all just want to be able to take our horses literally anywhere. And we do. We take them places most people don't take horses. And it's dangerous and it's terrifying. Last week at my lesson, I told my trainer, I said, I can't believe I give you money to scare me half to death every week. Like, this is ridiculous. But here's the thing. One of the reasons that I do that is there's literally nothing in my life that scares me anymore. And coming out of a relationship where I was scared all the time, to a place where nothing, and I've ridden horses all the way through that, but I like having something in my life that constantly challenges that ability to dial it down. Because if you, and horses are a great way of doing that because if you don't dial it down, they get dialed up and then they're nervous because they pick up that on that just like real fast. And then you have dangerous stuff that's possible. So you have to learn that uh, system, the nervous system regulation, and you have to get good at it real fast because if you don't, you could get hurt. And I think that's true in relationships too. It's not as life threatening and you can say words and it feels better. And then you can scroll on your phone and you forget about it for a while and zone out. But I like to think that we should all take it like that seriously, because if we did, we'd all be better at it faster.
Well, it is dangerous in a sense that if it's an important relationship to you, you can do some real damage, you know? So,
Yeah, and 100% of domestic violence, 100%, all of them have verbal aggression occurring prior to domestic violence events. So it is actually dangerous in some cases.
hmm. Hormones. Let's talk about what happens from a hormonal and neurochemistry perspective. So I think most of us have heard about the hormone cortisol. We know that is something that rises when you're stressed, and there are physical implications that come with that, visible physical implications. I mean, I've experienced just carrying extra water weight, for instance, because my cortisol levels are so high. Oxytocin, serotonin actually increase once you've done the healing work, which are the good hormones that we want. Your sleep improves, inflammation reduces, your mood stabilizes. All of these things are physical effects of doing the work.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Cortisol is hard to fight. You need a little bit. You get too much of that stuff, and then you have anxiety. Ugh, who needs that? So
Mhm.
it's worth it. And a lot of like this will be the thing that tempts somebody to get well. You watch. If you want to lose weight, you can't do that if you don't have low cortisol.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it keeps you from sleeping. If you're not sleeping 7 to 9 hours a night, you can't lose weight. Your body hangs on to it because it thinks it's in a dangerous situation. Like you've got to do this stuff. And if losing weight is your motivation, then okay, so be it. But just saying.
So there you go.
Yep.
There's all kinds of benefits
Yep.
from doing the work.
Yeah.
And the last one, which I think is the most important, is you have a sense of safety in your body. You're no longer bracing for impact. Your muscles relax, your posture opens up.
Yep.
You're not just looking for danger everywhere. And I think that's huge. Just feeling safe, especially for women, like that's pretty important for us.
It is. And one of the things that people learn through good healing is that they are responsible for their own safety. And
Mhm.
that the Holy Spirit, Jesus within us, is going to help facilitate that. But when we're healed to the point where we can take responsibility for that, then there's a sense of empowerment that comes with it. And there's a lack of neediness and weakness because we're not turning to other people with a childlike, parent me please type of unhealthy insecurity. So we're coming into the world secure. We know we can handle whatever's here. Even if we don't know, we know someone who does, the Lord, and we have access to Him 24/7. And we walk into things more confidently, unafraid. And we call that earning our security, right? So we come out of these things, out of the stuff that's traumatizing, triggering, all of that, and earn our security, our maturity in Christ, our identity. When we've done that, everything is lighter. There, the whole world is a brighter, beautiful place. And even when, because it's still going to be hard, right? But when difficulty comes, you don't lose yourself in, oh, what am I going to do? I can't handle this, or whatever. It's like, okay, I don't know what we're doing here, but God's got this and He's got me. So, and I've got Him. So what are we doing? Lord, what are we doing with this? You know? And there's a confidence that gets you through that in ways that, I mean, you can't, that's priceless, man. You just, oh, I wish I could bottle it, but you got to earn it. It's a thing that's earned. So,
Yeah, yeah. Another extremely good benefit of doing the work is you just have peace, you have rest, and your relationship with God just goes through the roof. So, highly recommend. All right, let's move into our last segment. This is the question of the day. This is where we pull questions from our students, our course members, and we talk about it on the podcast. So, one course member writes, she says she's got a dynamic in her marriage that she's struggling with. Um, she says when she brings something to her husband, he doesn't necessarily respond in any specific way. He doesn't give her a facial expression, eye contact. Sometimes she doesn't have any way of knowing that he actually heard what she said. So she said in one instant, he was in a car trip with her. It was for like 6 hours and it happened. And she said the whole entire ride, she felt hurt. And she understands that sometimes he processes things or has to process things, but she also wants to know that, he's listening to her. She says she sees him interact with family. He listens, it seems he's engaged. And she wants him to be kind to others, but she doesn't want to be treated any differently. She doesn't understand this interaction at all. And she feels like it's extremely rude to not speak or acknowledge when someone is speaking to you. So, any ideas on how she can address this issue?
yeah, she needs to find out what she did.
Oh,
Ask him,
hmm.
baby, I know there's a reason why you don't respond when I ask you a question. I just want you to know I'm open to hearing what that is. And if you don't feel safe telling me, if you just want to send me a text of what that is, let me know. Here's what's probably going on though, and he may not respond to that. So She needs to take a good hard look at her communication behaviors. If she's been rude, disrespectful, loud, yelling, critical, contemptuous, she has shut that man down. And he is not feeling safe at all with her. So he's going to give her absolutely nothing to work with. So she needs to look real hard at herself and what has she brought to the relationship that's helped create this dynamic. And then do better. And if she does that, then maybe she can draw him out of his shell. What he's doing is stonewalling, and it's one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse, according to Gottman. And that's probably there because there's been defensiveness, contempt, and criticism already. So rather than participate in that, I'm not saying nothing. And let's say that there's not a lot of that, or she's stopped doing that stuff years ago. She needs to own it and apologize in a memorable way. She just sit him down and say, look, I need to let you know that I have wronged you. I've sinned against you and God in the way that I've treated you. I've done this, I've done that, I've done this. I hope you can forgive me. I wish I'd never said or done those things. I don't even believe those things about you. It was mean and unacceptable. And I am so sorry. And if there's anything I can do to make it up to you, I want to do that. And then hope for the best because God can fix anything. But she's got to start by being humble and looking at herself because there's a reason that he's that shut down.
Yeah, yeah. Lots of work to do there, but yeah, we never say a situation is hopeless. God is in the midst of it if you're willing to do the work and let him in. So good stuff. What will you do with the information you have? Once again, go to our website. Also check out the next episode on how to handle difficult situations in Christian marriages. And yeah, check us out next week. Thanks for joining today. We'll see you next time.